Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We spend so much time thinking our planet is, well, completely conquered, right? By GPS, by massive shipping lanes connecting every single dot on the map. But today, we're looking at a place that completely defies our modern understanding of a connected, fully mapped world. There's this vast, mysterious patch of the Pacific Ocean that commercial ships are meticulously trained to just avoid. And it's not an area defined by violent storms or jagged hidden rocks, but by sheer, overwhelming emptiness.
So I want to pose this riddle directly to you. Where is the most isolated spot on Earth? Seriously, take a second to think about it. Would you guess it's maybe deep in the heart of the Sahara Desert? Or actually, how about somewhere completely lost beneath the dense canopy of the Amazon rainforest? Well, what if I told you the answer is a place so incredibly remote, so completely cut off from human civilization, that the closest human beings to this exact location aren't even on the planet at all?
I know, it is completely wild to wrap your head around. But when you're positioned at this specific empty location on Earth's surface, the closest people to you are actually the astronauts floating by in orbit on the International Space Station. The people down here on land, they are literally thousands of kilometers further away than those living and working up in space. It's this bizarre geographical anomaly that sounds completely impossible until you actually sit down and look at the math.
This extraordinary spot is called Point Nemo. It sits quietly way out in the South Pacific Ocean. Now, it gets its name from Captain Nemo. You might remember him as the famous enigmatic submarine captain from Jules Verne's classic novels. And honestly, the name is absolutely perfect because, fittingly, Nemo translates to no one in Latin. And out here, there truly is no one. No native populations, no researchers, no passing cruise ships, just an endless expanse of deep, rolling blue water.
To really give you a sense of scale, I want you to think about this number, 2,600. That is the distance, in kilometers, to the nearest tiny scraps of land in literally any direction. If you look up to the north, you have the Pitcairn Islands. Northeast, you'll eventually hit Easter Island. And way down to the south, there's a tiny, frozen, completely uninhabitable island near Antarctica. Every single one of them is roughly 2,600 kilometers away. To put that into perspective, that's like driving from New York to Denver, but instead of crossing a continent, you're crossing completely empty ocean just to reach a tiny speck of rock. Absolutely none of them are close by any stretch of the imagination.
So the crucial point is, why would ships deliberately avoid the most empty, obstacle-free patch of ocean on Earth? Logically, shouldn't an area with no islands to crash into, no hidden reefs to scrape against, and no narrow straits to carefully navigate be the absolute safest place in the world to sail? You'd think captains would be lining up to chart a straight line right through it. But as the data shows, the truth is far stranger than that.
Sailors actually have a very specific, almost haunting name for this region. They call it the oceanic pole of accessibility. And this is the first major reason ships stay entirely away. Out here, you are mathematically more alone than anywhere else on the surface of our planet. That ultimate isolation brings a pretty terrifying reality with it. If a crisis happens out at Point Nemo, help isn't just hours away. It is days and days away. No Coast Guard helicopter has the fuel range to reach this far out, and the chances of another nearby ship randomly hearing your distress call are practically zero.
Out here, you have absolutely zero lifelines. There are no fueling stations, no repair docks, and definitely no safe harbors to tuck into if you need to ride out a massive ocean storm. Just imagine the incredibly high stakes for a modern commercial cargo ship carrying millions of dollars in goods. If that ship suffers a massive mechanical failure, an engine fire, or a hull breach out at Point Nemo, it could be stranded, drifting for days, with literally nowhere to go and absolutely no one coming over the horizon to save them. The risk is just completely unmanageable.
But the danger out here isn't just about what's hiding in the water. It's about what is actively falling from the sky above it. Welcome to the space graveyard. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it reveals the second truly bizarre reason that shipping lines steer their multi-million-dollar vessels completely clear of this specific geographic zone.
Over 300. That is the staggering number of decommissioned satellites, cargo rockets, and massive old space stations that space agencies from all around the world have deliberately crashed into this exact spot in the ocean. Because Point Nemo is so unimaginably remote, far from any shipping lane and far from any human population, it has essentially become the most exclusive and probably the most expensive dumping ground in human history for retired spacecraft. Which brings us to a reality that sounds like it was pulled straight from the script of a science fiction movie. Ships sailing through this zone legitimately risk crossing paths with falling, burning debris from the sky. When international space agencies need to deorbit massive, heavy structures, like the old Mir space station, they mathematically aim them right at Point Nemo. You certainly wouldn't want to be sailing a freighter right through the exact coordinates where a burning, multi-ton satellite is scheduled to splash down at hundreds of kilometers an hour.
Let's move on and see how this builds to our third and final eerie revelation about Point Nemo. It's widely known by scientists as the biological dead zone. You might naturally think that an untouched, pristine stretch of ocean, completely free from human fishing or pollution, would be absolutely teeming with whales, skulls of fish, and vibrant marine life. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The ocean currents in this specific area create a massive rotating gyre. This gyre acts almost like an invisible wall in the water, totally blocking nutrient-rich currents from entering the region. It literally starves the water.
In fact, scientific findings show that there are fewer living organisms here than in most deserts on land. Really take a second to let that sink in. This isn't just a quiet section of the ocean. It is practically a marine desert. Scientists who have traveled all the way out here to sample the water find it almost entirely void of biomass. It is a vast, empty blue void. It's empty of human beings, empty of ships, and virtually empty of life itself.
When we bring it all together, the inescapable isolation of this place is just staggering. Upwards to the highly technical safety of the International Space Station, it's about 400 kilometers straight up into the atmosphere. Outwards, to the nearest solid ground where you might possibly find another human being, it's 2,600 kilometers across unforgiving ocean. The raw geometry of this place guarantees that for any ship in distress, the nearest humans are literally looking down on them from the vacuum of space. And this brilliantly illustrates the final, profound takeaway of our deep dive today. Point Nemo isn't dangerous because of what is there, but what isn't. It is not full of jagged hidden reefs. It doesn't have rogue pirate fleets hiding in coves. It doesn't have uniquely violent permanent storms that tear ships apart. It is dangerous precisely because of the total, uncompromising absence of everything. No rescue, no land, no life, and absolutely no way to quickly turn back for help if things go desperately wrong. Which leaves us with this fascinating final thought to end our explainer. In a 21st century world where satellites meticulously map every square inch of our planet and our devices keep us feeling connected to everywhere all at once, where else are we still truly alone? Point Nemo serves as a powerful reminder that our Earth still holds vast, silent extremes that completely defy our control. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the empty ocean. Stay curious, keep exploring those uncharted spaces, and I'll catch you in the next one.